Coming up on Arirang News, the South Korean government says it's going to create more than 1.5 million jobs to help make up for the huge blow dealt by the pandemic. Many of those will be set aside for seniors and young people. South Korea's exports of ICT products, including phones, displays, and computer chips, were down last month by over 15%. The biggest drop was in shipments to China. And amid the damage to business, one bright spot in the South Korean economy is in non-contact services, especially education. The sector is developing new technologies and services that are expected to last beyond the pandemic. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea reported 29 new cases of COVID-19 on Thursday, many linked to clubs and bars in Seoul's popular multicultural neighborhood of Itaewon. This marks the 7th straight day of double-digit increases in new infections. 26 cases were community transmissions and 3 were imported. Total infections in South Korea now stand at 10,991. The country reported 1 new COVID-19 death, bringing the death toll to 260. More than 20,000 people are being tested. Many countries are starting to ease their restrictions as they see the rate of new coronavirus infections slowed down. However, the WHO has once again emphasized that COVID-19 is still a risk and that it may never go away completely. Kim Sung-min reports.
Some countries in Europe and the U.S. have begun moving towards easing COVID-19 lockdowns and reopening their economies. However, the WHO warns that relaxing lockdowns without sufficient ability to detect fresh outbreaks could lead to a vicious cycle of public health and economic disasters. Executive Director of the WHO's Emergencies Program, Mike Ryan, said Wednesday the risks from COVID-19 still remain at, quote, national, regional, and global levels, adding that the virus could in fact never go away.
This virus may become just another endemic virus in our communities, and this virus may never go away. HIV has not gone away, and I'm not comparing the two diseases, but I think it is important that we're realistic, and I don't think anyone can predict when or if this disease will disappear.
Countries that believe they have passed the peak of infections are gearing up to resume economic activities. European Union has announced it'll gradually open borders, promising to have a tourist season this summer. London has resumed the normal operation of public transport, and France has also relaxed some restrictions on public life. Over in the U.S., the country is still grappling with COVID-19, but most states have resumed some economic activities. Most states have ended their stay-at-home orders, and only a few areas like New York and Washington, D.C. have kept those stay-at-home orders in place. However, U.S. infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci has warned that reopening the economy could lead to more little spikes that might turn into outbreaks. Kim Sung-min, Arirang News.
The pandemic has caused massive job losses in South Korea, prompting the government to take action. It says it's going to create more than 1.5 million jobs in the public sector. Kim Jae-hee reports.
South Korea's finance ministry says the government will create around 1.56 million jobs in the public sector as the coronavirus-triggered unemployment crisis continues to bite. The announcement came shortly after an emergency economic meeting Thursday and 1 day after the nation reported its steepest job losses for the month of April in more than 20 years.
Since April 22nd, the government has been rolling out stimulus packages to help the employment situation. As part of those measures, the government will focus on providing 1.56 million public sector jobs.
Some 600,000 out of 945,000 jobs, including jobs for seniors in the public sector, have not been active due to the epidemic, but the government will soon open up such jobs by easing some rules. The government will also create more than 550,000 additional jobs, mainly in non-contact and digital sectors for young people. The hiring process for some 48,000 public officials and jobs in public institutions will also resume this month. The finance minister added that government will push for a safety net for temporary, part-time, and freelance workers. Officials plan to finalize the specific measures during next week's economic meeting. The required funds will be drawn from a planned third coronavirus-related supplementary budget. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
A study suggests that Korea raising the retirement age has resulted in fewer jobs for young people. According to the state-run Korea Development Institute, for each person that continued to work after the age of 60 at small and medium-sized businesses, there were 0.2 fewer people employed between the ages of 15 and 29. For big companies with more than 1,000 employees, the ratio was 1-to-1. The minimum age for retirement benefits was raised in 2016 to 60, which has encouraged people to stay on the job longer. And KDI said that's made it harder for companies to take on new, younger employees. South Korea's exports of ICT products are taking a hit as the COVID-19 pandemic erodes global demand. According to the Trade Ministry, around $12.9 billion of ICT products were shipped overseas in April, down over 15% on year. Exports were down for semiconductors, display panels, and smartphones. South Korea's ICT exports to China saw the biggest drop, falling by more than 16%. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news today, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Se-won, Professor of Economics at Ewha Women's University. Professor Kim, thank you as always for making time.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, has warned that the economic crisis we're in is the worst since World War II and that the U.S. may need more stimulus. The Fed, however, is not considering taking interest rates negative. Tell us more about that and what measures you see coming down the pipeline.
On Wednesday, U.S. Fed Chairman Mr. Powell gave a speech about the current status of the U.S. economy. He has revealed a growing alarm about the U.S. economy's path ahead, and he described the outlook as a highly uncertain and subject to significant downside risk. Despite warnings of a potential bankruptcies and slow improvements in job market, Mr. Powell said a central bank isn't considering plans to cut federal fund rate, which is base U.S. central bank interest rate below 0%. So that means U.S. Fed will leave its 0% level federal fund rate or key interest rate until the end of this summer.
Meanwhile, the world has been hoping for a U-shaped recovery or even a V-shaped one, but there's talk now of a recovery that looks more like the Nike swoosh symbol. In other words, long and slow. What do you think a recovery will look like?
Yeah, that is very crucial question that almost everyone is interested in. But actually, most of the economists agree that the V-shaped recovery, which indicates economy recovers after the end of second quarter, is not possible. Instead, as you pointed out, U-shaped or Nike logo styled swoosh shaped recovery would be more reasonable scenario. This recovery scenario assumes that recovery starts in the second half of next year, 2021. Even Fed Chairman Mr. Powell on Wednesday's speech also pointed out that recovery may come more slowly than expected.
Well, looking at stocks, Wall Street was down sharply for a second day in a row, the Dow by more than 2%. What's the story in global stocks?
Actually, global investors have been eagerly seeking clues about the potential length and severity of the economic downturns. So Mr. Powell's gloomy speech decreased Dow Jones Industrial Average more than 500 points or 2.2%. And for the same reason, European markets over France, UK, and German markets also dropped yesterday between 1 to 2% level on Wednesday.
Well, now Korea's main stock index, the Kospi, was back up to the 1940 level yesterday. That gain was mostly wiped out today, though. Tell us about the local markets.
Yes, today's domestic market is heavily affected by yesterday's U.S. market drop. Kospi decreased by 0.8% today, and Kosdaq decreased by 0.1%. In both markets, as usual, domestic individual investors have bought stocks, but foreigners sold stocks for today.
Yeah, and foreigners might be pulling out of Korean stocks, but it looks like they're buying more bonds. Last month, foreign bond holdings rose to an all-time high. Tell us about that and why that might be.
Yes, regarding foreign investors' behavior in domestic financial market, we have totally different situation in bonds market. As of now, actually, Korean government bond is one of the most popular assets in global bonds market. The reasons for this popularity are Korean government bonds' high credit ratings, which is simply the best in Asia at AA level, and it pays higher interest than other similar rate sovereign bonds. For 10-year maturity, Korean government bonds pays like 1.4% interest, but other same maturity government bonds pays around 0.5% and 0.6%. So because of these reasons, foreigners are holding about 140 trillion won size Korean government bonds as of now, and this is the largest size in history.
Got it. All right, Professor Kim, always good to get your analysis. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Now, COVID-19 has decimated some industries, but among those that are doing well are online education and IT businesses. Demand is rising, and it's expected that'll continue even after the pandemic. Yoon Jung-min reports.
Online education has emerged as a promising sector for the post-COVID-19 economy. With schools still closed and classes being held online, the industry is seeing an increase in demand. And the sector is upgrading its services through new technologies.
Online classes and lectures for young students and job seekers have doubled compared to last year. We plan to provide students with a tailored curriculum using big data and AI technology.
IT companies are also gearing up to prepare for the post-pandemic era. In fact, a number of IT firms in South Korea have seen demand for their services increase amid the coronavirus outbreak. Those include non-face-to-face services, cloud computing, and video conferencing.
We're currently responding to an increase in demand for a non-face-to-face healthcare system due to COVID-19. This service is based on unified communication, which combines cloud, security, and network services.
In fact, Korea's IT giants posted an earnings surprise in the first quarter this year due to an increasing demand for non-contact services. Naver Corporation has shown a strong performance on its online store and payment services, while Kakao Corporation has seen its sales jump thanks to mobile shopping and entertainment content.
Because of the coronavirus, non-contact businesses will expand even after COVID-19, particularly those that are internet-based. It will be based on South Korea's strong IT infrastructure.
As South Korea looks to strengthen its digital economy as part of the post-COVID-19 New Deal project, the IT industry could turn the health crisis into an opportunity. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The flag carrier Korean Air is seeking to raise roughly $820 million by selling stock as part of a self-help plan. It's going to issue 79 million shares at a price expected to be just over $10 each, although the final price is to be determined in early July. The new shares will be listed on the 29th of that month. The carrier's parent company, Hanjin Kal, will also decide Thursday whether to inject more than $240 million into the airline. Korean Air has suspended over 90% of its international flights since late March. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.